Everybody, Jim and Roth here with the Keeping It Real IGN
I always
Movies
get startled
podcast.
by your intros.
I'm always like, hello and welcome back. So Chris Carl's out this week, so it's Roth and I. You're stuck with me.
No Chris.
And no Chris, but he's always going to be our butter.
He is eternally my eternal butterfly.
So there's some stuff to talk about this week. Otherwise, we're wasting everyone's time, including us. Let's dive in to the week that was. Let's start with some Star Wars news. It's coming at Comic-Con. Lucasfilm officially announced that the Force Awakens panel is going to be there on July 10th, which I believe is a Friday. Big Hall H presentation with Kathleen Kennedy, J.J. Abrams, and special guests.
Special guests. Who could they be?
I would imagine all the same people from Star Wars Celebration, and maybe, hopefully, Harrison Ford. He's shown up before to Comic-Con.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because I had thought that Star Wars wouldn't be there, which I felt would be a hole in my Comic-Con experience. That hole is now filled. And I'm very I have to think that they're also going to bring something new.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to show, I don't know if, I don't know, do you think we could get another new trailer? Kind of tough to top that last one. We're obviously going to get more trailers, but maybe our first look at Luke and Leia, since they were only a voice or like just a hand or whatever, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that it may be that, because we just got that little bitty tease of Han and Chewie in that last teaser. Maybe it could be that, or honestly, they could hold that. Didn't we have this discussion that they could basically hold as much as they want back? Yeah. They could really do a series of what are essentially teaser trailers that tell you nothing right up to release, and we're all still lining up.
It could be as simple too as like character posters that are being given away or released online and stuff. Like, just you get that poster of Han and Chewie, of Luke, Leia, all that, and
a new
the new
weapon
characters.
Reveal.
Yeah, something like, I'm sure they're going to sweeten the pot for fans somehow, but the Force Awakens will be the big dog in the pound there, and there's a lot of rumblings that Warner Brothers is going to have a huge DC superhero kind of panel there. We know Marvel Studios is pretty much sitting it out, but I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't either a Spider-Man reveal or some. All you have to do is just tweet out a photo, and you're gonna, for lack of a better expression, cockblock DC.
Oh yeah, it's interesting because I remember at last year's Comic-Con, Marvel came out strong, and then DC basically showed that tiny little tease of Batman v Superman
and the Wonder Woman image.
And the Wonder Woman image, and it was like they took the con with those images, and it would be interesting to see if Marvel kind of pulls that this year, by not even being there and just releasing a Spider-Man image, casting reveal, which we're all waiting for daily.
Yes, it'll probably happen as we're doing this. But to bring things back to, because we're going to be talking about Comic-Con a lot in the weeks ahead, let's talk about some other Star Wars stuff. News that, well, not news, but a statement that Josh Trank made at the end of last week. Of course, as soon as we had done the podcast, he released a statement where he explained why he dropped out of the Star Wars anthology movie. And I'm going to read it now, and we can talk about it. He said, quote, "I want to do something original after this because I've been living under after this, meaning Fantastic Four, because I've been living under public scrutiny, as you've seen, for the last 4 years of my life. And it's not healthy for me right now in my life. I want to do something that's below the radar." And he said he's basically made a personal decision to move forward on a different path. I put a tremendous amount of thought into this, and I know deep down in my heart that I want to pursue some original creative opportunities. What do you think of that statement? Do you buy it? Do you think it's just a smokescreen for a lot of the really bad buzz in Fantastic Four?
I think it's probably a combination of things, right? Because there has been some negative buzz around Fantastic Four, and I think that was probably a really difficult experience for him as a director, getting that movie made. I think that he came off a movie where he had all of the control pretty much as a small independent film, chronicle, and then he went in and had none of the control and got a quick an icy immersion into what the world of the studio system. And I think it was a rude awakening for him, and really tough, because he's been under so much scrutiny, not just from the studio and the executives, which I can't even imagine what that pressure is like in a franchise like that, but also from the public, us, right? Like judging every image, every trailer, everything that he does is under so much scrutiny. And I think that any sane person would go, like, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Do I really want to do this?
And he's not the first filmmaker who's obviously had to endure that, or even on a studio level. Like, a lot of, generally what you see or hear happen is a foreign filmmaker, they're tapped into, they're coming off of some small movie, an import that's got a following, and Hollywood's like, hey, come over here, direct this big genre movie, do this sequel, whatever. You heard that a lot with like different Fox movies, and then, well, oddly enough, Fox, and I like the guys at Fox, but I'm just saying traditionally, like, there's a real churn 'em and burn 'em kind of thing, and you don't have control. I mean, you've heard about this on so many different movies. I mean, what is it? Gavin Hood on Wolverine, you know?
And also I remember doing, and whether you like this movie or not, The Green Hornet. I remember talking to Michel Gondry about it, and I can't say the words that he used about Hollywood here in this particular podcast because it's clean. But yeah, he was just like, it was unbearable for him almost how many notes he was given and how many cooks were in the kitchen, and that negotiation. It was exhausting because it was over every minute detail. Now, having said that, if you're the studio, well, of course, because how much money is getting poured into this? You want every minute detail taken care of.
But it's also it's soul crushing if you're creative. It's not everything should be a bargain. I mean, I know there are trade-offs, but my God, within reason. Like, even Colin Trevorrow, I think is how we pronounce it, the director of Jurassic World, and we'll talk more about that movie towards the end of the podcast. But, even he's not really hiding his feelings on the making of Jurassic World.
And some of the challenges around that.
And he's been critical of some of the marketing and in certain interviews, and and he's already said he's not coming back for another one. And, and then you saw it on something like 50 Shades of Grey, but that was less the studio and more
it was
the
more
author.
The author. I mean, so coming back to Trank, I think probably there's a lot of truth in the soul searching that he ultimately did, because I think too, any normal sense, and he's probably a sensitive enough person to be a creative person, if you don't feel like wanted in a situation, then why would you want to be there? And I think probably he no longer feels exactly the loving embrace of Fox, maybe, we don't know, but possibly.
Well, they're not involved with Star Wars.
No, but what I was going to say is maybe that chill factor sort of transferred to Disney Lucasfilm a little bit.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's certainly a lot of cooks in that kitchen too.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, fandom is part of it. If he's catching this much hell over the latest Fantastic Four movie, imagine until you touch someone's childhood, that sounds wrong, with Star Wars, that's really when the knives come out. If they're pissing and moaning about, how rocky is the thing, or the casting of Human Torch, wait until,
every minute detail.
Well, especially too, if the rumors of it being a Boba Fett or Boba Fett Han Solo movie, like, you're touching the sacred cows now.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that actually the person probably the film that has the most freedom is, well, we don't know yet, but Rogue One, in the sense that these aren't characters we know, seemingly. These
it's
are
a situation
new,
we're familiar with, but we're not going in with an attachment to these people already.
And I think J.J. Abrams has had so much experience in this town and so much experience with this hardcore scrutiny of an intense fandom over the years that he's probably he's just kind of used to it.
And also, it's not like he knows he's never going to work again.
Yeah.
Like, the man's got money, he's got so many things going on. Even if Force Awakens is just absolute dog mess of a movie.
Which it won't be.
Which it won't be, but let's say worst case scenario, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
He's still going to work.
Yeah.
It's not like, whereas if you're, the Colin Trevorrows or the Josh Tranks of the world, you know, it could break you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of filmmakers, like the people who did like Super Mario Brothers, or
Yeah.
I think it was like Boris and Natasha, these kind of like big movies, and you've only done maybe one or two, or you're a foreign
Their careers
filmmaker,
were ruined.
and you didn't work again,
Yeah.
you know? Or like even, was it Danny Cannon who did the first Judge Dredd movie? It wasn't until years later, and he started doing all like directing CSI.
Yeah.
And of course now he's got probably a fortune from doing that, but like, and then he worked on Gotham, but like, that's almost 15 years.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
making up ground.
It can be. I think that can be a big risk for a filmmaker that's coming off with some heat. I mean, we'll see what happens to Mark Webb in the next few years. You know, that'll be a story also.
Yeah.
I liked 500 Days of Summer a lot, so I hope he comes around and does a great film. But I think it probably, my guess, and I don't know at all, was that this was sort of a mutual decision. Maybe, and that he is telling his side of it, which I think is probably true in the sense that he's
mutually don't want you anymore.
that he's telling his side, which is probably very true, and that he's made a decision to like scale back and get back to his roots and see if he can't make a movie he likes.
He did. Well, it also sounded like he needed to get to a healthy place.
Yeah.
In his, you know, and that's completely understandable. So we wish him well, and hopefully, like, you know, when he does get back behind the camera, he's doing something that he's 100% on board with, and is going to have a good time doing it, or at least the end result. But speaking about Fantastic Four and his movie, the Hollywood Reporter had they noticed that the original two Fantastic Four movies, the Jessica Alba ones, have been yanked from digital platforms.
Dun, dun, dun.
No, not on iTunes, not on Amazon, not to stream. You can rent the DVD or buy it, and if you are, why? But they were saying that because, you know, they don't want to muddy the public's sort of understanding of Fantastic Four. With the reboot coming up. I'm just curious, what do you think about that? I mean, it's not like they didn't pull the Burton or even Schumacher Batman movies out of circulation. They're not going to pull the Nolan ones out of circulation with BVS coming out, you know? Like,
certainly not.
So is it really, and also at the end of the day, those movies made some money for Fox, probably a lot more than this one's going to make, you know? So is it a smart idea to yank it from circulation?
Maybe, because I think one of the issues is that, well, so when you bring up, like, you know, Burton and Schumacher and Nolan, it's Batman.
Yeah.
The public knows Batman. You know, it's like Spider-Man. Like, there's a connection there already with most people in the world. So it's not like, but I think with Fantastic Four, there's more of like, there could be more of a, what are these Fantastic Four all about? And rather than actually go read the comic books, they'll probably go look at the movies that were previously made. So I think there is a good chance that people would, if it's cheap enough, like $3 to rent on Amazon Prime or whatever, why not, you know?
And it's also, too, like, tonally, it's very different.
Tonally, it's
like,
so
you know,
different.
the Nolan Batman movies were dark. Ben Affleck's Batman certainly seems dark. So it's not like it's like a complete, what the hell is this? It's not like they went back to, you know, freeze in hell Batman. Like, they didn't do that. So, but the Fantastic Four movies were goofy and colorful and you know, just gaudy. You know?
And I don't think, exactly. So I think they don't want to set up that expectation that this is what this is going to be about, because it's not, seemingly. And then also they probably are like, well, those are not very good movies. And so we don't want to set up that expectation either. I think that they're just trying to do as much as they can to make this franchise work for them right now, because, you know, there's limits to what Fox owns. It's worked pretty well for them so far.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if this Fantastic Four movie tanks, will Marvel get those characters back? That's something, you know, a lot of fans want. I feel like the Marvel universe is pretty crowded right now.
So full.
So even if they get them back, I would say maybe wait until like 2019, 2020 to reintroduce them. Yeah, Spider-Man's different. He's the crown jewel.
Yeah.
And you want to milk that, and Sony wants to milk that because it's a sharing deal.
Right.
Fox, I don't see a sharing deal being struck there at all.
Seemingly, the relationship would not allow it. It would have, you know, you never know, but I agree with you. There's so much happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. It's so full. I mean, and yet the Inhumans are still coming, you know, even in the midst of everything else.
And you know, look, I mean, we'll see maybe Fantastic Four, if you get them back, maybe for a Phase 4, no pun intended, but they could kind of maybe supplant the Avengers as the big team that you build things around and stuff like that. I know there's only supposed to be 4 of them, but there were different people who came in and out of that roster over the years in the comics. But well, it'll be curious to see, like, you know, if they joined the MCU ultimately, what do you do with them now that you have them? Let's talk about a different Fox Marvel property, and that is Wolverine. Hugh Jackman, again, acknowledging, like, this is it, the 3rd Wolverine, I'm done. However, he was mum when asked yet again about making cameos in either X-Men Apocalypse or Deadpool. Now, Deadpool has wrapped filming. X-Men Apocalypse is still filming. But I want to just throw something out there to you, Rothelbees.
Drop it down, I'll pick it up.
Okay. Wolverine 3, last movie, coming out after Deadpool has been put in the X-Men movie universe. Do you think, or should, Deadpool show up in Wolverine 3? Would that be a great way for Jackman's Wolverine to go out, is like, you know, him versus Deadpool?
Yeah. Why not? Go out with a bang.
Should Deadpool kill him?
I feel like Deadpool should kill him. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what should they do? Like, how, if this really is his last hurrah, and it sounds like it is, what do you do? Do you kill off Wolverine, Amanda?
I mean, I don't think that they would. I think it would be, in a way, awesome to have Deadpool kill him. You know what I mean? But in
very meta.
It would, yeah, it would be
time for a reboot.
Time for a reboot, right? Like, and Deadpool is a character that could do that and make it fun, but that belongs maybe in a Deadpool movie because that tone is...
We've already seen Deadpool and Wolverine fight too, and that didn't really go too well.
That didn't work out that well. But I think that the Deadpool that we're going to be getting with Ryan Reynolds, you know, in this iteration, it would be a weird thing for him to kill Wolverine in the sense of, like, he's going to be our...
They should have him kill the Fantastic Four if it doesn't work out. You know, he just shows up. That's the tag at end of Fantastic Four.
This is a segment we like to call "Who Should Deadpool Kill?" But yeah, I think so. I think that probably wouldn't work for the connection they're going to want the audience to have with Deadpool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could make it work. That'd kind of be amazing, but I don't think you can. But I do think probably if he's going to go out, like, kill him.
Yeah.
You know? Not that I want to see Wolverine die, but I mean, that's sort of the biggest dramatic end you can bring, especially to this character.
Yeah. I mean, I know ultimately they're going to reboot them, but reboot that property.
Do you not want him to be dead?
I feel like at that point, if they're not going to reboot the entire the X-Men movie universe, if they're not going to reboot it, like, entirely, even including X-Men Apocalypse, like, you know, a whole new fresh ball of wax, then I feel like you're kind of screwing yourself a little bit if you do kill him, because then you know you're going to end up bringing him back, that character back anyways. So now you have to explain that. Or if you don't explain it, then it's just like people are going to know, like, wait, what? It'd be like bring back Mr. Spock without ever explaining, like, well, you did kill him. You know?
I mean, that's the thing is, like, I say that only in this sense. So, like, I don't want to see Wolverine out, like, not in circulation, and it's not like I want to see that character suffer at all. But to me, it's like, if Jackman really isn't coming back, which I feel like he and Downey play this game all the time, but
I really do think Hugh Jackman wants to go and hit, like, the nearest Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, and just, like, be done with this. Yeah,
I think he really wants to get a gut.
Yeah, and, like, can I just be an old man? Damn it. But the problem is, unless you can't recast him, you know what I mean?
Not yet.
You can't recast him, and if you're not going to reboot everyone, then it starts to get a little murky because the people that Jackman's Wolverine has interacted with have to be. You can't have a different Wolverine around them.
They're
So
like,
it's
oh, hey, what's up,
so
Wolverine?
to me, it's like if you're
Completely
going to
different
give
guy.
him a send-off, give him a glorious send-off. Give him the send-off that he deserves.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're privy to a larger plan for the X-Men movie universe because, and we've talked about this before, I mean, especially with Apocalypse set in the 80s and you're going up against Apocalypse, like, how do you get back up into the 21st century, which is where the movies had been, you know? So it'll be curious. We want to know what you think of how Jackman's Wolverine. How should it end for him? You know, if he's only got the one movie left.
Or should he go off into the sunset? Would you rather see him go off into the sunset and be happy, or die brutally, possibly at the hands of
Those
Deadpool?
are your only two choices. We will not tolerate any
nothing
difference.
in between.
Nothing else. So let us know in the comments below. Let's move on from Fox's Marvel stuff and just talk about Marvel. Chiwetel Ejiofor's character in Doctor Strange is, according to Deadline, Baron Mordo. But they did say that he is going to be more of an amalgamation of other characters from Doctor Strange lore, which got me thinking. I'm like, well, why? You know,
this question occurred to Jim.
But it made me wonder, like, okay, they're already tweaking the Ancient One by probably having Tilda Swinton play her, him, it, whatever now.
Tilda Swinton, okay, I will say this, though, about the Tilda Swinton thing, and I know you and Chris already addressed that, but she does that a lot, where she, maybe just by nature of who she is, she often plays either men or androgynous characters.
Right, yeah.
Even Constantine.
Yeah, even Constantine, I feel like it must have been on TV one night when they were trying to they were probably like trying to hammer out a deal with Morgan Freeman. It wasn't going. It's like, oh, screw it. Let's just get Tilda Swinton. But it okay, if they're going to make Baron Mordo an amalgamation of other Doctor Strange characters, I'm like, then are they going to make it sort of like he is like the Wong character, where he's kind of more of the partner to Doctor Strange in a way, and which would make that falling out between them even worse.
Right.
Like, it just makes me like, what other characters is he is he going to be kind of a composite of then?
I think that's the one that makes the most sense, because that's also just such a classic sort of comic book trope of the friends who become mortal nemesis. Nemesis? Yes.
ES instead of IS on that one. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's just such a classic kind of trope, and I always
Marvel's frenemies.
Marvel's frenemies.
That's right.
I actually always am moved by that when the relationship. It's a good
Westerns did it a lot. I love that stuff. You know, and Obi-Wan and Anakin
because it's always
kind of stuff.
a little heartbreaking, right?
Well, because everyone's had a falling out with a friend, and it's a very human thing, and it's great drama. But it does make me wonder.
The stronger the love, the stronger the hate.
Well, do you think though, because the character, like Chris and I did discuss this with the sort of Marvel's no-win situation with the Ancient One, the character of, that's exactly how it was actually headlined, by the way. Marvel's got a similar situation with the character of Wong, but oddly enough, the 1970s Doctor Strange TV movie, I do wonder if they're not taking a page from that a little bit, because it addressed the same problem. So they made the Ancient One more of a Merlin type. That I think it was, like an English character actor.
Right.
And then Wong was more of, he wasn't, this stereotypical Asian manservant. Yeah. He was like a contemporary Asian American dude in a suit and tie, who was almost more like the private eye kind of, not a sidekick really, but like the cop's partner kind of thing.
The Watson to his home.
Yeah, basically yes. And so I do wonder if maybe they're not doing that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
We kind of solve yet another problem for that.
And it's a tough, like that really is tough with some of these characters when they were written in a time that was very different, and you can't, very rightly so, you can't do that anymore.
What if they did? What if they just went all in and just made it, and you're just like
as offensive as possible?
I don't know why Chinese audiences rejected Doctor Strange. We thought it was going to play great there.
In China. That's awful. Yeah, I think that's a good possibility. Is
we gave him the little pigtail thing and everything.
And if it's more of that kind of like Watson Holmes partnership sort of dynamic, and even more so a little more equals, then that makes that rift that much more profound.
Yeah, because he knows how to, he knows exactly all the buttons to hit,
Yeah.
And I guess, because in the comics, Baron Mordo killed the Ancient One. So that's basically two brothers killing their parent.
Yeah.
Or two brothers and one of them kills the parent kind of thing,
Biblical.
Yeah, that's some heavy stuff.
Doctor Strange, you have a lot to live up to, according to us.
I know, we're fanficking this thing like crazy. Let's move on from Doctor Strange and talk about your thoughts on the Mockingjay 2 trailer that dropped this week. Now, you know the books, and of course, we've both seen the movies, but you know the books, so you know how this saga comes to an end. I don't. But from the trailer, does it look like the finale that this saga deserves on the big screen?
Yeah, what's funny is that many of the book readers, I think including Eric Goldman, actually don't like Mockingjay all that much.
Really?
Yeah, that for most, Catching Fire is their favorite, and many people were disappointed with Mockingjay. It does have some narrative and structural issues, the book.
It's that series, Dark Knight Rises, is what you're telling me? And I liked Dark Knight Rises, but I get it.
I may do kind of like a feature like in defense of Mockingjay.
Oh, interesting.
Because I kind of feel like it ends exactly, there are narrative structural problems, but other than the little prologue, which I almost never like prologues, epilogue. It was, other than the sort of epilogue, which I don't love, it ends exactly like it needs to end. It ends exactly like that story needs to end. This is not about maybe what people thought it was about or should be about. It subverts those expectations.
And you're more one of those people that's more interested in sort of the political context of a story too. So you would have appreciated that aspect, whereas maybe other people were just expecting like, it's war. They wanted basically
victory.
Yeah.
And there is the point of this entire thing is there is no victory in war.
Yeah.
There's
don't spoil the end of this.
Well, no. That's not a spoiler. Like, it's not like nobody wins or this side wins or that. I won't tell you who wins and who dies and who doesn't die. Whatever. I'm not spoiling anything. I'm saying the cost of war is, you've seen it in this past movie.
Yeah.
You've seen it in all of these movies.
That it transforms people and not necessarily for the better, and it makes them have to do things. And
it's just that the cost is very high. So high that you can't really think of it in the terms of
just like the rents in San Francisco.
I mean, like I think that people want to think of those things as like, yay, the good guys won.
Yeah,
now,
they want it black and white. Yeah.
Which, again, I'm not saying who does and doesn't win, but the point is, like, even if the good guys win, even if it's a just war,
there's a price to be paid.
There's a price to be paid.
I mean, I think that's what I've appreciated about that series over other YA type things, and you and I have both expressed our loathing, frankly, for the Divergent series, but like the thing I've liked about Hunger Games is that it's not afraid to embrace the politics of it and not afraid to like show that there's a downside to being a hero, you know, like it's not just.
And I feel like you've seen that throughout the series, right?
Yeah. I mean, and so for me, it's been interesting to see this pretty intelligent science fiction franchise at a time when I feel like people are like, well, it's just YA, so we can just do it, and that's the difference between things like Hunger Games and a Divergent, where I feel like the Divergent stuff just wasn't really thought out, and things to me in that series seem more arbitrary.
They're also a little more service level. Like, I don't want to blow anything out of proportion here, but I think the Katniss of the book in particular is a very complicated character. You know, like it's hard because it's all from her. It's all her perspective in this book, so you know her much more intimately. You know her thoughts, right? So like, but you know, she's like vengeful. She is complicated. She's angry. She holds a grudge. She's loving and heroic too, and she makes heroic choices. But
so
they're not.
She's a real teenager.
She's a real teenager, but they're not easy choices for her to make.
Yeah.
You know, like she'll, despite herself, sometimes do the right thing. Like she's a real human being. So that's one thing that I loved about that character in reading the books.
That's awesome.
And I think the movies have done okay to capture that. I like the movies a lot. But
Yeah. Well, let's talk about another lit to film
you're
series.
like, I just asked you if you like the trailer.
Yeah, another lit to film series, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's a Harry Potter spinoff. Now, obviously, it was just the bestiary, basically, right, that J.K. Rowling wrote. But, you know, I never really read the Harry Potter books.
For shame.
I know, I guess. But to me, it just seemed like I was maybe too old for them at that point. But, you know. But I wanted to ask you, because it's been in the news, J.K. Rowling has, you know, basically said that there's going to be an American wizarding school. She won't say where. I'm just curious, what do you think about a wizarding school in America, and what city, in all seriousness, where in America should it be? That makes logically, from you knowing the books and understanding that series, like where should, I'm just going to say it. Because
Boston?
Boston. I don't know why. I just want to, because Boston's a very old city. And
no
Boston,
reason for that.
I don't have a dog in that fight.
Yeah. Actually, it really doesn't matter. Truly, it doesn't. I mean, then I'll say New York, because I grew up in New York. So how about that? And New York is America's London, right? So New York, that's where it should be. But the truth is that the school itself, like Hogwarts.
Fresno, California.
Hogwarts isn't. Okay, so it's not in a city, right? So like Hogwarts is way, way, way out, first of all, in what would be like the British countryside, but it's also in the magical realms, which basically are completely separate from the Muggle world.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter at all, like where geographically it would take place.
But would it have, like, I mean, it would reflect whatever the geography of that part of America.
It could. I mean, like
right?
Hogwarts.
It's not like you're going to be, let's say you're in Chicago or whatever, and then you go to Hogwarts and now you're back into the green rolling fields. It's not going to be like that, right?
No, but I mean, the interesting thing about, because like Hogwarts, they would get to the Hogwarts Express, like Harry lived in London, and they would get to the Hogwarts Express at King's Cross.
Yeah.
And then, so they traveled to where it was, and it was like in the British countryside, but again, like, and she was actually using, I don't know if you've ever been to Edinburgh, but the castle in Edinburgh, she wrote it there, and she was like sitting in coffee shops looking at the castle.
Oh, that's
awesome.
awesome.
And she used that kind of as and you know the cobblestone, like if you've been to Edinburgh, the cobblestone, all of that is
we were in Edinburgh together.
Oh yeah, we were.
Yeah,
we were in Edinburgh together.
Yeah, when you were at a different outlet, we were there.
That's true. We were there together.
For Brave.
For Brave. Thank you, Disney, for my experience.
Everything comes back
Edinburgh. Yeah, so that area is so like the physicality.
I can see you getting inspired sitting there writing, you know,
But so that look of like Hogsmeade Village, you totally opened a door you should not have opened to bring up Harry Potter, by the way. But that look of Hogsmeade Village is kind of inspired
Keeping It Real is also a Scottish travelogue. You didn't know that. Next week, Ireland. I can take you down that path. We're going to be doing that. Yeah. The places you'll go listening and watching Keeping It Real.
No, it's not even. It's the fact that you brought up Harry Potter. Like I was on a set visit.
We went down a deep well on this one, folks.
That was not a deep well. That was me going at like one droplet of a puddle for Harry Potter. Like we can go so much.
You know what?
Deeper.
Let's do sometime in the future. We'll get the Potter people.
Yeah.
We'll do a Potter podcast.
Oh my God.
A podcast. Although,
podcast.
Yeah. Actually, you guys should just get stoned and talk about Harry Potter. That thing would go through the roof.
I am so down for that. Okay, so to answer your actual question, I don't think it matters what city. So New York.
Okay.
And
you're wrong because it's going to be Boston.
Because it's Boston. But Boston does have like kind of that old school feel, like that more historic feel. You're right. But yes, I say yes to a wizarding school here in America. Absolutely, that's amazing. Cool. My dream for this movie is that he's basically the wizard Indiana Jones. So he could
Yeah,
teach at the
that
school.
actually, I mean, what's the magzoologist or something as the actual like term used
Yeah,
for Newt Scamander?
Yeah, and so he like wrote this book, right, about so basically he would be, in my mind, he is like Indiana Jones in the sense that like he's like a professor, maybe he works at this school by day, but then he goes off on these adventures to find these beasts.
That's awesome. Actually, that makes me excited for this movie. I know that sounded really, that makes me excited for this movie. I really am. So let's move on from that, though. I want to talk about some stuff that came up in the news. Another thing that you're passionate about, Big Trouble in Little China. You're probably the biggest fan, at least on the entertainment team, of that movie. And of course, we told you last week about how The Rock is going to star in a remake. Well, The Rock said that he would like John Carpenter, the director of the original movie, to be involved in some capacity with the movie. Is that just fan lip service? And what do you think Carpenter could actually bring to the table for a remake? Because we also have to kind of, John Carpenter has gotten pretty lazy the last 15, like he just wants to sit around and play video games.
And why not?
Whatever else he does.
He works hard.
I'm saying he likes to just do this, that's all I'm saying. And I mean just saying okay to things. Exactly
he worked hard in his life, let him retire. Okay, so with Big Trouble in Little China, I will say this. It's interesting because I'm actually a massive, massive, massive Kurt Russell fan.
Yeah.
I am very sweet on Kurt Russell. To me, he's like my favorite kind of action hero in that way. Not like fighter, not like Bruce Lee, like a real fighter. But like the
everyman.
The everyman, the ability to be humorous and likable and relatable and yet still kind of have that movie star quality.
Yeah.
And you know who else does have that is The Rock.
Yeah.
He knows.
Chris Pratt does too.
Pratt does too, absolutely. And it's funny because when I interviewed The Rock for Furious 7, one of the things that he talked about was how important it was in a movie like this to know how to deliver a one-liner and to know how to bring that humor to it, but also kind of keep it grounded in that world. And he can do that.
Yeah, Kurt Russell is the king of the B movies. He can deliver like. I read through the script of Tombstone before the movie came out. At my college, they used to because it was a film school here in LA that they would get copies of scripts to movies before they came out because a lot of their alumni were working in the industry and they would donate them to the library so that writing students could study it and learn. But I was a huge Westerns fan, so I was reading through the script of Tombstone. I'm like, this dialogue is awful.
But he sold it, right?
But Kurt Russell can just he can just say the cheesiest line and
it
own
works.
It. Yeah,
it sings. And Val Kilmer actually sold Doc Holliday in that too.
Yeah.
I'm Huckleberry. That's just my game.
Yeah, those two were fantastic.
Those two were great. But so The Rock has that too, and like it's funny because a friend of mine posted like she was having a party and it was Big Trouble in Little Koreatown because it was like in Koreatown the party was, and she was like, because we love The Rock even when he's committing cinema blasphemy. So with Big Trouble, I actually have some friends that have big issues with Big Trouble, and I understand that, and I think it is problematic in some of the ways that we were talking about. It's of a different time.
Like of Doctor Strange kind of
Yeah,
things,
exactly. But it is weirdly my Thanksgiving movie. I watch it every Thanksgiving. I have a deep affection for this film that I'm not going to try and justify. It just is.
But what about John Carpenter? Like what can he do for like this?
I don't think anything. I mean, I really think it has to.
They just want to say he approves and stamp
I think they just want the stamp of approval because I think truly it has to. Like, I'm not sure of all the movies why you want to remake this one. To me, Escape from New York makes a lot more sense to remake. I don't know why you'd want to remake.
What would you think about like Dwayne Johnson as Snake Plissken?
As Snake? I don't know. I mean, it's tough because like you're asking me, and I think it's hard for anybody to capture Kurt Russell, any of the characters that Kurt Russell did, because if anybody can do it, The Rock probably can. But there's a quality that I think is very hard to capture. So I don't know. He's not also Snake is kind of a badass.
And Snake is also like he should be. Snake should also, I feel like, a shorter guy like. Snake was a scrapper, when he fought the big guy in the ring, like he would cheat, whatever he had to do. Like you need a guy who is not going to be, who's tough, who can definitely physically has a presence, but he's not going to like fill the door. Like,
That's exactly it, Jim. You have nailed it. That is the thing that is, because as much as I love The Rock, he is a massive human being.
Yeah.
And the thing that Kurt Russell had, and Bruce Willis too, obviously in the movies that he did, but
Harrison Ford.
and Harrison Ford,
too, yeah.
is that it didn't look easy for them.
Yeah.
It didn't look like, oh, that would just be so easy for them, because
Yeah, they
these
looked
guys,
like they needed an ice pack after
Yeah.
any scene.
Yeah.
And that's
And
one
they
of the
weren't
best
so
scenes in
crazy
Raiders.
built.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the best scenes in Raiders, though, is like when he's on the boat and he's hurt, and then she whacks him in the face with the mirror and he screams. I mean, you know, I mean, that's just, but like for Big Trouble in Little China, it sounds like it's going to be even more cartoonish than if you do put The Rock in this kind of situation.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so. I mean, again, I have faith in him because I really do. I'm just very charmed by him, but I think it's a very odd choice to remake, and I think as far as John Carpenter actually being involved, I don't think he would be, and I don't think he should be. It just has to kind of be its own thing.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, he's not even really doing that anymore, like you said. Like, he just wants to hang out. And Kurt Russell, I think, would have nothing to do with it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think Kurt Russell is probably just, I mean, he'd probably be okay with The Rock being in it because they've worked together on Furious 7. But Kurt's an opinionated guy. I'm sure somebody's going to ask him at some point, and he's going to say,
I would like to ask him.
Yes, well.
You can call him Kurt.
Yeah, give him a holler right now, and we'll get it live on tape. So I just want to rattle off some news items. The Cut the Rope mobile game is being turned into an animated movie called Om Nom, the movie named after the little green fella in the movie, and it's coming out in 2016, so next year. And then Bad Boys 3, Joe Carnahan of The Gray and the A-Team, Narc, all that, Smokin' Aces, is reportedly in early talks to rewrite and possibly direct Bad Boys 3. So I kind of like that. And then now Tomorrowland, Disney is looking, according to the Hollywood Reporter, it could have a write-off on that movie. I mean, a write-down of of up to $140 million, making it its biggest flop since The Lone Ranger.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, well, this doesn't bode well for original movies.
That's my, I will say, like, that's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, because it's coming on the heels of Jupiter Ascending and Seventh Son, you know. But the thing that those two movies had was that they weren't good, you know. Like Jupiter Ascending, we've talked about, we won't go down that rabbit hole again, but it's like, it did have moments of cheesy fun, you know, in that kind of Flash Gordon kind of way. But Seventh Son was just it's a turd, you know.
It's just you wish that a really great original film would come out soon and do really well in order.
And I thought Tomorrowland, I didn't care for it that much. I thought it was good at times, but I thought like its message was dopey, frankly, and like it was almost kind of pandering. And I don't see how, like, it's great to have a message of optimism, but it also has to make sense, because I don't see what the kid playing guitar at a train station is going to do to really, I'm sorry kids who play guitars at train stations, but you're not going to change the world in a fundamental way. You can make people think and all that, but if you're one of the chosen ones at the end, you better be able to build a damn bridge or something.
You better be able to do something practical. I mean, like, I don't actually know if I totally agree with that, you know. I think,
well, moving on. Kidding.
No, I wasn't in love with Tomorrowland. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a nice idea, and there were moments that worked and were really fun and entertaining. But I think that was ultimately the issue, is that it was a little heavy-handed in its messaging, and maybe the entertainment got a little lost in that.
And also the messaging and the selling of the movie. I didn't really know what was this movie. Like I've said before about how, you know, when you first see the trailer, it's got kind of a Wizard of Oz quality. You know, she's Dorothy and she hits the thing and she goes to Oz, basically. And I felt like that kind of idea was maybe how you sell it. To me, it was like, it was sold more as like, what does it mean for this world? I'm like, well, I want to see Tomorrowland. And a movie called Tomorrowland, I want it to kind of be about Tomorrowland and not what Tomorrowland really means for our world. I don't know. I mean, I get why on a story level what they were going for, but I just felt like in execution it just fell flat for me. You know? But yeah, upwards of 140 million, biggest flop since Lone Ranger for Disney. All right, let's talk about the Joker. We need to talk about the Joker, just like we need to talk about Kevin. We need to talk about the Joker. Yeah. Now we're gonna get really creepy. Keeping it creepy. I want to ask you this because you posted a story the other day. Set photos, just Jared Leto's Joker hiding under a cloak, just trying to get to set.
Though looking very creepy.
Looking very creepy. I can't wait to see what he does. But whenever we write anything about Joker, anything, whether it was Ledger's Joker, Jack Nicholson's Joker, Mark Hamill's Joker, Joker in a video game, Joker in a direct-to-video movie.
Yeah, Joker in a dance-off.
Joker, there we go. That has to happen. Maybe at Comic-Con people can do a Joker dance-off. But I want to ask you, what is it about the Joker why is this guy such a popular character? Why do they love that Joker? To swipe a line from the '89 Batman. Because, I'm a huge Batman fan, and I understand the importance of that villain, and I get why he's popular, but to me, dramatically, he's not the most interesting villain in there. Like, for me, I'm always going to be a Two-Face fan because I feel like there's something about Harvey Dent and like Batman and what Harvey Dent and Two-Face means to him. He's a character, he's a villain Batman is trying to save, and that makes Batman heroic.
Yeah.
Joker's a villain he's trying to essentially destroy, and that to me is a bit more plain, I guess. I don't know. Like, I guess I want to just, why is the Joker such a compelling, captivating character, and still will remain that way too?
I think that in a sense, like Harvey Dent, and it's actually, I think it's a good comparison, because the thing that Harvey Dent has is that you want to hope that things can be different. They won't be. Because that's not his character. But there's that element of like, maybe this being could be better, right? There's still something human in there. And there's nothing human really in the Joker. And I think that's actually one of the reasons that people do respond to the character so much, because it's fascinating in a way, because for most of us, I hope none of us are sociopaths and psychopaths, right? That have no emotions and that have no sense of conscience, you know? So something that doesn't and that is so other, I think is really fascinating, because you can wrap your mind around Harvey Dent, because I am a person and I'm flawed and I could go a bad way. Any one of us could, right?
He was a person who was trying to do well, but he had his own demons and got broken by something.
Right, and he was broken by his demons. I think any person can relate to that battle and has the idea that I can lose that battle. I hope I don't. But the Joker, I think, is fascinating in the sense, like, I don't get it, and the backstory is
can be anything.
Can be anything. At any point, and so
even the Killing Joke kind of acknowledged that, and they tried to make him kind of sympathetic and human, but even at the end, you're like, is that real?
Is that real, or was that not? And so I think that's one of the things that's so fascinating, because in addition to him just being freaking creepy and scary, really ruthless, willing to do anything, you can't expect him not, as bad as you think that he could get worse.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, go on.
No, and I think you then get to project your own fears onto that and your own perception of where that would have come from, what nightmare realm, whether it's like pure evil or abuse. You get to project your own sort of fears and perception on the world onto the Joker.
No, I mean, I think one reason why the Joker has become, and he's become clearly far more of a compelling and even more iconic character in the last, I'd say from the 70s, since like, what was that, sort of the Joker's Five-Way Revenge, the one where like the Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil kind of run, where they I think it was Denny O'Neil, who kind of brought him back to his dark, psychotic roots, and not just make him this sort of jester, the Cesar Romero type character. But I think part of it is that the Joker can reflect an increasingly chaotic, anarchic kind of world, and I think there are people even if you're not a criminal, let's just say you're, hate to go there, but let's just say you're an internet troll.
Or a CEO.
Yeah, and you like to stir, and you just want to mess with people, or you're into things that are nihilistic. That character, you see something in there that you like. There's something in that character that, you know, is cool to you, because all of us, by being civilized human beings, we have to conform to rules.
Right.
You know, and even Batman, even though he's outside of the law, is still trying to bring some sense of order. You know, justice in it of itself is trying to bring order to something, a wrong that was done, something that was not part of, that wasn't societally approved.
Right.
And the Joker is just like every worst nightmare you could have, and there's a power to be had in that.
Yeah.
Because I think
he doesn't,
anybody
he's
who feels
Kaiser
powerless,
Soze.
yeah.
He's the guy that will do the thing that the other guy won't do. There's no apology at all in the Joker. There is no remorse, no regret, no apology, nothing.
Yeah.
And there is, I think, a freedom in that idea, in the sense of like, I am just riddled with guilt all the time, personally. Like, you know, no, I mean, really, like, I'm like, oh God, I was
Were you
mean,
raised Catholic
you
or
know?
Jewish?
Like,
You know?
I was mean that day 20 years ago or yesterday. Get out the lashes. But so there's like a freedom in that, I think, that idea of that. But there's also, and I said this to you earlier, I'm terrified of clowns because they are insidious evil things. But also, it is like
definitely that visceral impact too. Yeah.
It's the evil lurking underneath the false face, the false smile, you know, the inversion of innocence.
Yeah.
And I had also read a book about John Wayne Gacy when I was very young, but that's another thing.
Why did you read a book about John Wayne Gacy?
My mom had like all these true crime novels. Anyway, that's a whole other session of my therapy.
Explains why you don't like Pennywise either, you know?
Pennywise, yeah. But it's the inversion of that innocence that he does. Like, everything is funny, right? But like, that's not funny.
Yeah, that's
not funny.
And also, I think, you know, on that sort of very deep, what's the actual technical phobia name for clown? I
should find out because I haven't.
Oh no, I think it begins with an A. It went right out of my head. If you guys know it, let us know in the comments. But there is, and I was reading, I think it was at like IO9 or something, about the history of clowns, and it wasn't until this Italian guy and around the time of Dickens, who had invented the clown face, because before that, clowns were just sort of jesters with the bells and the hat, and we have this guy to thank for the creepy clown face and inventing modern terror.
That anything could be hidden under that smile, you know, and obviously the Joker smile is very specifically. And
the fact that he leaves that on his victims too, like, you know, he will literally turn joy into sadness.
Joy into pain, and other people's pain is his joy.
Now, but let's get more specific in terms of why then, something that is so negative, why is it the Joker? Is it like we could run any story on Joker and people would just gobble it up? Like,
it's true. I mean, do you remember
whether it's Heath Ledger or Jared Leto or whatever, like, there's something,
I think that on this one, you know, I think again, like, because there's so much space for people to project their perception of what that ought to be, or where the Joker's coming from, because we don't know, and so I say this is what made the Joker the Joker.
Right.
You also sort of feel like you have that your perception of what that looks like is also the correct one, and so I feel like that people aren't getting outside of that perception to go, well, this is a character in the movie, and there's going to be a look that's not going to be exactly what's in your, which is fine. I understand, you know, and there's attachments to the comics. Those are two different stories.
Even his look in the comics is changed over time. You know, sometimes he's incredibly like gangly and stuff. Other times he's a bit fuller, you know, but like, I guess I
think people want to have the conversation of like, does this look like what the Joker in my mind looks like? And it's going to be really hard.
The Joker in my mind would be a great like tell-all book of like some nut somewhere. But all right, well, we want to know why do you, what is it about the Joker that fascinates you? Why do you think he is such an iconic character, and why can't we seem to get enough of this guy?
Why can't we get enough of the Joker?
Yeah, we want to know, why do you love that Joker? Let us know in the comments. And of course, for all things Joker, you keep it here on IGN. Let's move on from that and talk about Jurassic World. Now we have, we've both seen it. You guys haven't, so we're not going to get into spoilers. We'll talk about it next week. And by the way, next week is E3, so there's going to be a lot more video game stuff on the site than there even normally is. It's their time. So, but we'll still podcast next week, and we'll talk in more spoilerish detail at that time about Jurassic World, give you all a chance to see it. But overall, Roth, what did you think of the movie?
It was fun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's interesting that it's very divisive.
Whatever. I think you can say either way.
You can say either way.
It's like vase or vase.
Either. Tomato, tomato.
Mature.
Mature. It's like very much a riff on that original film.
Yeah.
And some people are loving that because, like you've said, they see it as a love letter, and some people kind of see it as a bastardization. Yeah. I think it is an entertaining, enjoyable time at the theater. It is very much a popcorn movie. Oh, yeah. In the sense of, it's pure entertainment. It's silly. There's some plot issues and things like that. Yeah. But I had fun watching it. I love Chris Pratt. He's just so charming.
Yeah. It's a lot of dumb fun. I love it. I think it is. I understand why the people who hate this movie actually vehemently hate it. I get that. And I understand that it's maybe self-referential to a fault, but overall, I thought it was charming. I thought it was fun. It was a nice distraction. It's like having a pizza. Yeah. I'll probably have it again, but it's not like I'm going to remember that pizza I had that time. To me, it's the best.
Oh, you need to have better pizza. We'll talk later.
To me, it's the best Jurassic Park movie since the first one. And I actually kind of like the third one. I know that's not popular to say. I don't like Lost World. That one really bugs me, but like I kind of like the third Jurassic Park movie because it knows exactly what it is, which is just a complete B movie, right down to its running time. It's just like 90 minutes of just running around trying not to be eaten. Yeah. And whereas this one and the first movie were trying to maybe have something a little bit more profound or something a little bit more to say, especially the first movie.
Especially the first movie, I think.
That's mostly Crichton.
Yeah.
And that,
I really do think this is really a popcorn movie. I don't necessarily think, the way that we could sort of with Winter Soldier, say this is a great time at the theater and it's definitely a popcorn movie, but there is something there to dig into if you want to a little bit, Yeah. This is running around from dinosaurs and Chris Pratt on a motorcycle with velociraptors.
What did you think of the Indominus Rex, the new dino?
Oh yeah, I mean, the look?
Yeah.
Well, not to spoil anything, but I actually liked the look of the Indominus Rex. There is a twist that comes with it that I thought was very obvious.
Yeah. I gotta say, I was surprised that there weren't more sort of like establishing shots of this creature. Like, I wanted kind of a better look of him. Yeah. I didn't want it to just look like a whitish, whitish T-Rex. Yeah. And so that's my one kind of gripe about it, is that I did kind of want more kind of just a clearer kind of look at it, because you see the monster is generally almost always surrounded by either foliage or buildings or whatever. I kind of, at least even the T-Rex and the raptors in the first movie, there were clear shots of them, like the wallpaper shot, if you will. So you could really get
some of that towards the end, yeah?
A little bit towards the end, but for things we won't get into spoiler-wise, that I found a little tough to discern at times. But anyways, we'll get into that next week. But what do you think it's going to make this weekend?
So much money.
That's all we had to say about that. It's tracking at between 120 and 130 million.
So much money.
Do you think it'll be more than 130?
I think it could, because I do think that in general, audiences will like the movie. I think there will be people that like the group of critics that hate it, will hate it, and some people that will enjoy it less. But I think in general, this is, and I mean this in as good a good way, it's very easy to watch.
But should
know
you
what I
take your
mean by
kids
that?
to see it? There's a legit question, you know?
Should I?
I think it's pretty intense for a kid.
I mean, I don't know that I'm the right person to ask
You
that
did read a
to.
John Wayne Gacy book as a child.
I
so.
also took a 7-year-old to see Return of the King. You know, I did.
Well, Return of the King's not as bad.
And she, like, when the Riders came out, I was worried, and I was like, you know, oh, like, are you
Disney
okay?
movie kind of scary. This is
That's
monsters
scary.
tearing people apart.
You think that Jurassic World is more scary than
I think so.
you do? I don't.
Creatures eating your
Let
parents
us know
and stuff?
in the comments below
Yeah.
if you think one or t'other is more scary.
So what do you think?
There are some scary moments, though, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
a little one, no.
Yeah. What do you think? Could it make more than 130 million? Like the top
I
end
really
of
do. I
predictions?
do. I think it could edge on up there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the movie is, what is it, like 2 hours, 5 minutes, something like that. Like it's long, but it didn't, you know, it felt like
feel long.
Yeah, it felt like it was a movie that you could probably, you know, it's not going to have that sort of like, oh, we can't show it that extra time a day thing. So yeah. All right, I'm going to say it's going to make about, I'm going to say 131. I'm going to do the total prices
That is
right
like
and go a
such
buck
the
over.
price. Okay, I'll say 132. 137.
137
Yeah.
to 131. Okay. All right. You guys, when you see it this weekend, let us know what you think of the movie. But before we sign off, now that we've talked about something fun, let's talk about something
Let's
sad.
get depressed.
Yeah, Christopher
no, wait,
Lee.
this is really sad.
Christopher Lee died. Yes, the screen icon, Dracula, Count Dooku. If you're Star Wars fans, you know him as Count Dooku. Saruman and Lord of the Rings. Scaramanga, if you're a Bond fan.
He had a prolific career. We were looking at
He's 93 years old.
93 years old. He had a great, seemingly, and I hope, a very good life. He certainly had a prolific career.
Badass too. He's an actual World War II like commando, like killed a bunch of dudes in World War II, and then when he's in his 80s and 90s, put out heavy metal albums.
Yeah, I mean, like
Come on, man, that's a life.
That is a life, and he's made. I mean, we were going through his filmography, and it was just like endless. You know, he had made it will make you feel lazy to read up on his life.
In fact, I just brought it up right here.
Yeah, so
I mean, let's say his first movie was 1946
or 7.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up right now. 1946. It was on a TV show, and then his first movie was Corridor of Mirrors in 1948.
So let us just highlight the fact that he started an incredibly long and busy and iconic movie career after he was an adult who had been in war.
Yeah, in World War II.
You know?
And he's related to Ian Fleming, creator of James Bond. And the fact that he played Scaramanga and The Man with the Golden Gun. Cool Bond villain, not a good Bond movie. But he did play a man with a third nipple in that movie.
And which makes up for it, I like
to
think. Extra nipples are butter. Extra butter.
Oh, geez. Sorry, Carl. So what's your
Because of his third
favorite? Look, I don't want to know what Carl's got going on underneath that cat T-shirt of his. I don't need to know this stuff. But yeah, he's been in everything from he was in Gremlins too. He was in the Captain America TV movie from the late 70s.
Yeah.
I think it was like Captain America 2. He was in that one. And then, yeah, he played Sherlock Holmes, and then he played Mycroft Holmes in The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. And what's noteworthy about that is, hate to break it to you, but Christopher Lee wore a rug. And in this movie, he actually goes au natural bald. So yes,
as Mycroft.
Yes, as Mycroft Holmes. So sorry, that widow's peak, awesome hair, not real. It was a rug.
What a fun run. I mean, you get to play Dracula and a Bond villain and Sherlock, both Sherlock and Mycroft. You want to get Watson in there too, buddy? You know, that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, let's give people, let's recommend a movie to the folks, a Christopher Lee movie to watch.
You know, it's funny because I feel really boring in the sense that for me, I'd have to say The Lord of the Rings, you know, that trilogy, what a great character.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like.
Speaking of frenemies.
speaking of frenemies, how
Gandalf
tragic.
and Saruman,
No,
yeah.
I know, it's true. And what a tragedy. Like,
Yeah.
he totally got taken by his villains, and his demons.
Yep. I'm gonna
Literally.
twofold. Wicker Man,
Yeah.
the original one, not the
Okay.
Nicolas Cage remake.
Exactly. Don't be thinking of the Nicolas Cage remake. That's a great one.
Yeah, it's a really weird movie, but it's a fascinating, very lyrical movie. And then I want to just give a shout out to, he was also in the old Three Musketeers movies that directed by Richard Lester, who did Superman 2. Well, took it over after Richard Donner, and did Hard Day's Night. And it's Michael York and Christopher Lee plays Rochefort, and he was the guy with basically the henchman, like the evil kind of musketeer kind of guy who was with the eye patch, and he worked for the evil cardinal, and so I remember him as a kid from those movies as well. But yeah, I mean, if you like Bond movies, I guess check out Man with the Golden Gun. Just for him, he's a great. That to me is the only Bond movie I would like to see them remake. Just because the idea of Bond going up against the world's best assassin, 007, who's already supposed to be one of the best assassins, going up against the guy who could kick his ass.
Absolutely is, yeah.
Like, I would love to see that.
That'd be awesome.
My actual recommendation is to check out Wicker Man, and if you're into Three Musketeers, check out the 1974-75. There was Three Musketeers, and then they did the Four Musketeers, and then in like '89 they did, I think it was like Return of the Musketeers.
I think The Wicker Man is a great recommendation because, unfortunately, and nothing against Nick Cage, but a lot of people have that film in their minds as that's what The Wicker Man is. But the original Wicker Man is super creepy, interesting, cool movie. It's so weird.
Really weird. It's
That's
got
a great
musical kind of interludes and stuff. And then, of course, like, you know, if you're like Dracula, go back and watch his Hammer horror movies, his Hammer Dracula stuff.
Yeah, you could do that. And I love Drac. Like, I'm a big Dracula fan, so I think it's worthy to look at all of the Draculas, period.
Yeah.
But I want to make a off-topic recommendation, if that's okay, because it's opening this weekend.
Okay.
Jurassic World. I know you're going to go see Jurassic World. I do know that. But if you want to see two movies this weekend, there's, you know what you don't see from Hollywood much anymore? Coming-of-age stories. You don't.
Really?
No.
I feel like I see one every quarter.
Regular people, non-space related, non-comic book related coming-of-age stories.
Spectacular Now.
All right, fine. If you want to see a good one, check out Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. I saw it.
That's a pick-me-up.
Well, it's actually, I won't say whether it is or it isn't. How about that? I will say that it is a very sweet and enjoyable one Sundance. I reviewed it. It's up on the site if you want to read it.
Check out our review.
But it is, it's just a really nice coming of age story. It's a little quirky, not too quirky. You know, some I think indie films get a little self-consciously quirky.
Yeah.
I don't think it goes quite that way. It's got a great cast, including the support cast, his parents, Connie Britton, Nick Offerman.
Bring it down a little bit here, like little Connie Britton.
Little Connie Britton for you.
Nick Offerman.
If you want to.
John Bernthal's in it.
John Bernthal's in it. He is, and he's like you can see he's a great actor, and you should know that he has a lot of range. But he's a cool kind of teacher guy in this movie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I recommend that if you want to support seeing other kinds of films in the world too, go see Jurassic World. Go see this one too if you can.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's podcast. Let us know in the comments what you have on your mind. We'll try and get to reader emails and comments, and you can find us on Twitter at Roth Cornett, at Jim Vejvoda. Yes, I did change my Twitter handle. No longer at StacksIGN, is now at Jim Vejvoda, or maybe I guess it's going this way. But for all things movies, you keep it here on IGN.